In other serial killer news, recently I'm sure a lot of you have seen the headlines surrounding Lucy Letby, a nurse serial killer from England, who was killing babies.
One of the worst things I've ever heard.
It is one of the worst cases, the most horrific, traumatizing for the victims, the parents, and the babies who died, because they all died very painful deaths. Incredibly painful.
Yeah, I know. Because there was a lot of torture going on, which makes it even worse. It leaves so many questions, man.
I know, and I feel like I don't have many answers, which I don't like. So I wanted to know who Lucy Letby is.
Yeah, and I think it's important to talk about the story, too. Even in these situations where we don't have a lot of answers for some of these questions, it helps victims stay alive in this situation.
Yeah.
I know some people don't feel that way with true crime, but a lot of people do. It helps the situation not just be forgotten in time. This was a horrible situation that society and people can learn from, grow, and change the future.
She was taking care of, premature babies in the NICU, okay? Which hospital was it again? It was... I don't know. I'll bring it up in a minute.
She should have been
a
protector.
But she was working at this NICU and specifically targeted twins and triplets for some reason.
Whoa.
Yeah, weird. But these are premature babies. Most of them were expected to live. I don't understand why. There's this thing with the NICU, okay, that I have seen with multiple people who've had kids, where the NICU wants you to come in and drop off breast milk, visit with your baby, and leave. And I feel like that's how she partially, I think, got away with it, is that the parents aren't sitting there next to the kid. The mom's in recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like that. I think the baby should be with the mom. How can we not set this up better, where you have the equipment in the room with the mom and the parents, okay, the family, and you have NICU nurses who make the rounds to the room? Why do they need to... I mean, I'm sure there's intensive care units that sometimes they do need to be in, but it doesn't sound like any of these babies needed that level of care.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel the same. I think that there is... Look, I understand needing health care and needing to put the child, the baby, around a nurse and a doctor for extreme situations and circumstances, but we're trading one and harming another when we do that. Yes, they're able to keep them alive and healthy and meet all their needs, but you're also starving them of the parent bond that's so important in the beginning. So I get it. Yeah. And the hospital was Chester Hospital in Chester. Countess of Chester Hospital. Oh,
yeah, that's what I thought. It was Chester Hospital's neonatal unit, but I also have it written down that she graduated from a university in Chester. So I was getting confused. I forgot that it was the same. But I don't know. For me, I feel like there should be more oversight or something. And it also, she had so much.
What you guys think,
she had so much room to do this. It's insane. But so what she was found guilty of was murdering 7 babies, okay, and attempting to kill 6 more, cleared of 2 charges, and then the jury couldn't reach a verdict on 6 more.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's a total of, what is it, 12, 17.
Yeah.
That's 17 babies, because she was cleared of 2.
And some of the things that she was doing, are you going to go into, what some of the things were that she was doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a 10-month-long trial. And did you know her parents were there every single day of the trial? proclaiming her innocence, like by her side, like she is innocent.
When you have this many bodies under you, come on.
When when they started reading off the verdict from the court, like it was audible cries from Lucy and her mother, and her mother's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Like, this isn't right.
Maybe those kind of behaviors are what helped create somebody that could do this. I mean,
that's what
bias and logic, they can't live together.
Yeah, and
they're enemies.
So, I mean, she even stalked the victims' like families afterwards on social media. She did. She stalked their social medias to literally view their grief. She fed off of these intense emotions of grief and sadness and distress.
If that's not like a classic serial killer move, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's insanity. But by all accounts, she seemed like the most vanilla, normal lady ever.
Look at Canada's.
I know, her too, but she at least, like, was a little freaky.
Quirky, strange, yeah, I guess.
But she came from, like, a super Christian family.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was, like, white lady, normal, like, Christian lady.
Appearances are
she ended up being a lesbian.
Yeah, appearances are never what they seem. Look at Rex Heuermann. Mm-hmm. Rex Heuermann's a collared-wearing, tie-wearing dude that has his shirt tucked in at all time, wearing, like, boat shoes. You would not expect... If I saw him on the street, I'm thinking, oh, look at that nice, nerdy old man, And no, he's a monster when the lights are off. A monster. And this is one, too. Yeah. Monsters are real.
I know.
They just aren't creatures in stories. They're people like Rex Heuermann and Lucy Letby.
This is just horrible. So some of the things she did, which we don't have any of the victims' names, like the babies' names. They refer to them all as like Child M, Child L, stuff like that. But here's one, okay. So she injected air into Child M's bloodstream and also poisoned his twin brother, Child L, with insulin. And she gave rescue breaths to Child M after she responded to his cot monitor alarm. Here's another thing. The babies that she did this to were never technically under her care as a nurse. When another nurse would go on break, she would take it upon herself to go do, like, these things to the baby. So the record of emergency drugs provided to the infant was written on a paper towel during his 30-minute resuscitation at the Countess of Chester Hospital neonatal unit.
No way. It's so hard to talk about. And I don't know if you guys watched our update about this last week. It was probably one of the shortest updates we ever did because we had to cut some out of it because this was so hard to talk about, but we felt like it was so important to talk about because, again, remembering the victims and the situations and, it's important for them to be remembered and be heard of. So
she kept souvenirs. So what was written, okay, on about the medications given to him, the note, she kept all of these. Like, the paper towel and blood gas reading for Child M were both found in Morrison's carrier bag in Letby's bedroom following her arrest. So she had 257 of these sheets in her possessions, which had the names of the children that she had given care for on the shift. Like, she literally kept souvenirs. Not only that, but she wrote, like, a sympathy letter, like some kind of card to one of the grieving families of the children she killed, and she took a picture of it on her phone and kept it, and they found it on her phone.
So 257 different child's names.
So she had a total of 257 such sheets, which these sheets are shift handover sheets, which also should have not have left the hospital. Maybe this was her keeping tabs on babies. I don't really know. 21 of the sheets included names of the baby she is said to have harmed. You know, they did look, clearly they looked through a lot of these babies' deaths, because the numbers went up so drastically while she was there that it is insanity.
Like on shift is what you mean. Yeah.
No. Like, period, for the year. Like, they only have, like, one baby death a year. And then when she started working there, I think it was actually like 2 years after she started working there, because I believe she started working there in like 2012, 3 years later, 2015, there were 4 babies' deaths in a month. And normally they have one a year.
Yeah.
One.
I had read somewhere that, see, and that's interesting. That's the information I didn't have, because when I read what I'm about to say, I thought, oh, you know, this is a NICU. Maybe they have a lot. I didn't realize they only had one a year. So apparently coworkers were the ones who pointed it out that, like, these are happening every time it's her shift.
Yes, but they're never her actual patients is what I have gathered. Like, I watched some of the police talking about their investigation in her and stuff, and also a woman, they have a podcast, and they have really good information on it, and we can reference that here, but they were talking about all of this, and like how she was never actually that child's caretaker. Like, the nurse would go on a break or like go see another patient, and she'd swoop on in there and start doing these things, and then that nurse would hear the alarm bell sounding like this patient is failing, and then rush in there. And nurses have several like firsthand accounts of walking in and seeing her standing over the baby looking at them.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So I'm kind of confused how, like, she didn't... That's a big thing in all of this, okay? Is, like, how she went on for multiple years to do this.
I think that's easily answered. I know when you're an outsider looking in, okay, it is very easy to look at a situation and judge the situation and say, how could this have happened, okay? But then, when you put yourself in a situation, just imagine yourself in a work situation, like coworkers that you work with every day, you have around you every day, you spend more hours with them than you do with your family. Now imagine one of them you're close to, and imagine that they're doing fraudulent, horrible, awful things at work. Would you be able to see it immediately? I don't think most people would. I really don't. I think that when you have a relationship with somebody, just friendship relationship with somebody, you tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. Most humans do.
I can see that.
So I think that's probably what was going on. Is they were probably, well, she's a nurse, she's been here for years, you know, there's no way something's going on, but it's definitely weird until it gets too over the top and they're like, this can no longer be explained.
I agree with you, but there were some issues of doctors, like physicians, trying to report it to hospital management, and hospital management never reaching back out. And some of the cops, like some of the investigators, I should say, allege that they were too worried about the hospital's reputation to actually, like, dig into it.
Oh my gosh.
No autopsies were ever done on the babies when they died. They thought they died of natural causes. It wasn't until they looked back into it that they started realizing these things.
Oh my god.
And the hospital...
I feel like there's so many mistakes with what you just said there. Like,
yeah. They got reports about her and didn't do anything for a while.
Why wasn't there an autopsy on every one of these kids? So if you're a hospital and you want to control your risk, okay, because hospitals, one of their number one things they focus on is controlling their risk because they're dealing with lives and emotion and people, and it gets messy, okay? Wouldn't you do an autopsy every single time to make sure that you are doing every single thing the right way and then fixing the problem if you're not? Like, what? I'm blown away by that.
I know.
Literally blown away.
So, listen to this number. Studies show for every 1,000 premature babies born in the UK each year, the entire UK, for every 1,000 born each year, fewer than 2 die.
And then there was 4 in 1 month.
In 2015.
Oh my gosh, you guys. That's wild.
So it says, of the hundreds of babies that pass through the Countess of Chester Hospital's neonatal unit in an average year, only between 1 and 3 would die until 2015. So in just 14 days, in June that year, 14 days, 2 weeks' time in June in 2015, 3 infants die suddenly and a 4th deteriorates rapidly without warning. All of them were stable and fine.
I just can't believe. So, one, we have an uncommon statistic, okay? She's a woman serial killer. That's already uncommon, okay?
It is.
Then you have a woman nurse ending babies. That usually we see elderly more than babies because I think a lot of these sociopaths are able to justify that these elderly people had a good life and they're doing them a favor, whatever their justification is. But why babies? When I first heard about this, I immediately started thinking of psychology, and that's like one of my favorite things with serial killers, is trying to understand like how they connect dots in their head, right? So why did she have some kind of hate or issues or whatever with kids? Could she not have kids? Did she have something happen to her when she's a kid and it's a self-hate thing? Like, why?
Yeah, I forgot to pull up her personal notes that they found. So
those notes are wild.
They are wild. So I just want to talk about who she is, where she comes from. So she was born January 4th, 1990, and is an only child to John and Susie Letby from Hereford. Mm-hmm. Married, and they were married 5 months before she was born. Okay. And then they bought a home in a cul-de-sac and literally have lived there for 33 years until all this happened. Then they moved closer to her when she was going through all of this.
Okay. So by all accounts, super stable
And consistent home life. So her father was a retail manager at a furniture shop. I heard that her mom was like a career professional, but I don't know what she did. I haven't seen that anywhere. She went to Elstone High School, where she there decided that she wanted to work with children. And then she went to college in Chester and graduated, and her parents were super proud of her. They literally put up a posting in the newspaper talking about how, like, put a picture of her and talked about they were so proud of her hard work.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, dude. Wow.
So, I mean, we don't have a ton of other information about her childhood other than it was super stable with parents that seemed super great. We have no evidence of childhood trauma. But then you get into some of the things she would talk about with her parents. So when she went to, like, move on in life, okay, and, you know, moved away, they found texts between her and her friends, like other friends, talking about how she felt suffocated by her parents, how they hated her living alone. And, like, one of the doctors, I think it was a doctor she was talking to, so she had this obsession with, like, a married doctor. said he was going to move to New Zealand for work. And she said, oh, I could never do that. It would kill my parents.
Overbearing parents. You know how
that's
common we've heard this lately?
That's what it sounded like. And the home, so she moved into this house, okay, that her parents helped her buy. And inside the home, like, she had 2 cats, and it was childish looking. Like, the way she put together her home just looked like kind of childish.
That's strange.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah,
so
very.
So, also, in some of these notes and stuff, she talks about, like, how unworthy she is, how she'll never have a husband or a family of her own. It makes me wonder, where did this come from? Because if she had this super consistent nuclear family upbringing, okay,
that's very
where
uncommon.
did this come from?
That's very uncommon for sociopath behaviors. Normally, sociopaths are very self-centered and confident and are not writing in their journal and notes saying that they're unworthy of these things.
I know.
That is very, very strange.
So where is it coming from? She feels suffocated by her parents. She feels like she can't move on in life. She feels unworthy. She feels... she says in these notes that she's guilty, that she's a terrible person. I mean,
yes, girl, you are.
I don't understand it. But then I started reading some people trying to psychoanalyze her, like some psychologists saying what they think could be going on in this situation. So I saw people mentioning Munchausen by proxy, and I was like, no way. Really? For like a serial killer nurse? But it actually makes a ton of sense. So
was she helping in the resuscitation of these babies?
She did try to resuscitate some of them, but she didn't want them to live. So one thing with Munchausen by proxy
though, wants them to live. They want them to need them to.
But no, what she was seeking was, like, okay, for instance, when one of her patients would die, okay, one of the babies would die, she'd be like, there'd be a new baby coming, okay? She'd be like, can I take care of that baby? Mine just died. I really need to take care of baby right now because, you know, she wanted people to feel sorry for her. Like, oh, yeah, your patient died the other day. Okay, yeah, you can take care of this baby. And then she would literally kill that baby too. Like... So and she would seek victimhood constantly. It seemed like out of people. Like the investigators found lots of messages between her and friends and stuff, like trying to make people feel sorry for her, and that is a hallmark of Munchausen by proxy. Usually people with Munchausen by proxy have extensive medical knowledge. Okay, she's a nurse. And they want to be victimized while they're victimizing someone else. Like, they use that person to gain victimhood themselves.
Okay.
For some kind of benefit. And I think the benefit for her was maybe, like, these intense emotions and people feeling bad for her.
Maybe. That is so strange. That's one of those weird mental never-ending infinity loophole situations that just doesn't make any logical sense, right? But there's some weird kind of emotional need or gain that she's getting from these situations. I'm lost at it because we've never seen a situation like this. I would love to see a really experienced therapist or psychologist dig into Lucy Letby.
Well,
I would really love that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that she's going to see a psychologist after she's sentenced, or I hope she already has.
But I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure she has for the trial. I'm sure she has. I actually didn't look at that. But I did watch psychologists who have YouTube channels talk about what they thought was going on with her. One was Todd Grande. I like him. He mentioned this. I also read an article where somebody totally different mentioned this as well. And At first when they said that, I thought the classic case of, what was that girl's name? Amber something, right? With the mom, and they lived in, I think, Springfield, Missouri. And her mom pretended she had cancer. I instantly think of that case, where she's like in the wheelchair and then she ends up killing her mom.
Yes.
And I couldn't see...
It's Dee Dee...
Blanchard. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. And Amber Blanchard, right?
Maybe. I don't remember.
I don't know
I just
either.
know the mom was... was it the mom was Dee Dee, or... Anyways, it's the Dee Dee Blanchard case that you can see on Netflix. I think they still have it on there.
Yeah. There was a movie made after it. So, Munchausen by proxy is literally classified as an attention-seeking disorder. That's what it is. It's all about getting attention.
Well, so we covered, what was her name? Kelly... Ronahan. And that was Munchausen by internet, which sounds ridiculous, but it's real, you guys. If you want to hear about that story, I'll post the thumb here, but she ended up losing her legs, like gone, both legs, because of self-harm, because of the excessive, insane, obsessive picking, and she ended up losing her legs, all so she could get attention online.
Well, and Munchausen by proxy is usually a caretaker, too. She's a nurse. It almost makes me wonder, which I saw someone theorizing this, did she have that want to kill? They say that usually they have that want to kill before they decide to go into that field.
Okay.
Did something happen in high school, right before high school, where she started having that feeling and knowing she wanted to, and that's why she wanted to work with kids and became a nurse? Because...
some kind of trauma.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would kind
Nature
of make
versus
sense.
nurture.
That would kind of make sense, honestly. And, I believe it was only 3 years after she graduated college and started working that she began killing.
Well, here's the interesting thing, you guys.
What?
Is when I'm looking at this, right, a few things that I'm thinking is... what symptoms or signs were there before this happened? So I'm thinking her childhood, okay? But then here's a great question, too. The parents refuse to believe that she's the bad guy in this, no matter what the evidence is. And the evidence against her is damning. Like, it is incredible. She is the only factor that stands out. It literally can't be anyone else, you guys.
No, it's her. And
the parents refuse to believe that. So, in a situation like that, when she was growing up, did we potentially see serial killer traits of harming animals, or maybe even dolls being a reflection of her and doing something weird with it? Like, things that parents should be seeing and being like, wait, that doesn't seem right. Maybe we should go see a therapist just to make sure, you know what I mean? As a parent, you should be sure. If you see something and you're not sure, I suggest you get a professional to make sure that you're sure, you know what I mean? Did the parents overlook these things? And they've been there the whole time.
Also, how do we know that one of her parents wasn't abusive? Like, with how codependent and crazy they are to 100% believing her innocence, like... It makes me just wonder what was going on there.
Overbearing mother syndrome, maybe.
Dude, there's something to be said for overbearing mothers. 100%.
One of my stories tonight talks about it, so I agree.
There's something there that can really mess up a kid.
It refuses to let the child learn accountability and make decisions on their own.
The other nurse serial killer had overbearing parents. Her father enrolled in her college to keep an eye on her. They literally, Elizabeth, look her up, Canada's nurse serial killer, Wedelhofer or something like that. Mm-hmm. Her parents were super mega overbearing. She went off to college. Her dad wanted to keep wanted to keep an eye on her, so he enrolled in that college.
Yeah, and can you imagine that kind of suffocation? And like, she was gay and didn't feel comfortable coming out because of her overbearing parents.
And
they're Christian. She was thinking she was going to go to college and have some kind of freedom and be able to explore like she should have been able to. But no, here comes her dad.
And then they sent her to conversion therapy.
Yes, and then Yes.
So there's
Overbearing
something...
parents, do not let a person learn how to be held accountable in making their own decisions. You starve them of that confidence that they need to not only make decisions, but hold themselves and allow others to hold themselves accountable too.
Also, if you're not allowed to grow, you're never going to develop self-confidence.
You have to mess up.
Yeah.
Messing up is good.
You have to mess up, and you also have to accomplish things yourself by yourself.
No, I agree.
Or else
you gotta force yourself to do things.
You will not feel like you're worth anything. You
I
won't
know.
have self-confidence if you have these parents who are constantly there trying to do everything for you and make sure you're doing everything perfectly.
Perfect, right.
So...
Perfection isn't real.
Who knows? Maybe that's it. Maybe that is like a big contributor to... why?
And I gotta say,
that's super interesting that both nurse serial killers that we looked into have super overbearing parents.
Maybe there's a connection there between women, because women's brains are different than men's brains. I don't think any of you out there are going to argue with that. But if you do, leave it in the comments. Let me know why. But women's brains are different than men's brains. So the nature versus nurture that might make a man a serial killer, right, a sociopath, and go down that road, it could be different than what would make a woman serial killer and go down that road, okay? So while an overbearing parent on a man and how their brain works might not create that nurture effect that can cause that, it might do that with a woman or make them more likely to be homicidal or,
maybe
other
it's like,
idol.
Yeah, maybe if they just have something inherent in them, or like they...
Trevio, Alexis, whatever.
Maybe something clicks in certain people's heads, and like, I don't know, because they were... Their mother was so overbearing, and that's kind of a form of abuse. It makes them extremely angry inside and feel bad about themselves, like so much hatred and anger that it, like, and some people just have that in them. I don't know. It
could be, but it can also be too that they just have no concept, because again, women's brains are different than men's. These women might just have no concept of what real accountability is. Real accountability. So when they're making decisions, they don't have any concept of what those decisions will, the cause versus reaction. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe. Or it's like they don't know how to...
action of reaction.
Or because they have such a warped view of what a caretaker and what nurturing is.
It could be too. It could be too. I just think that, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I have additional knowledge here. You haven't heard this story yet. But, like, it's a very similar story to Alexi Trevio with Alexis Avila. And both of them have overbearing moms. And I think there's a very good argument in both cases that neither of these women, based on some of the behaviors and the things that they're saying that we're seeing, had any idea what their decisions could do. I do not think they understand it.
Yeah,
that doesn't make them not held accountable, but that helps us, the outsiders looking in, connect dots and realize, okay, whoa, so this caused this, and this could cause this, and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's interesting stuff.
So with this story, I mean, if you guys want to go look into the story of each baby, definitely go for it. It is really difficult for me to go into. And what is the more interesting thing for me, because we know, okay, she injected air into veins. She injected air into their tummies. She poisoned them with insulin. There's even some weird accounts of, like, these babies having rashes and stuff.
She used anything and everything, you guys. Literally anything and everything to cause discomfort in these babies, in these newborn babies, to only fix them and nurse them back and do it again. It is one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in my entire life, okay? To the point where we just decided we aren't going to talk about the actual crimes on these babies themselves, but the social and behavioral aspects of Letby herself.
Yeah, but her favorite like, the thing she did the most was injecting air into their stomachs or their bloodstreams. That was, like, the main thing, was injecting them with air or insulin. And it's just horrible. And when they read the sentencing, I think they had multiple sentencing hearings, or no, I think it was multiple reading, like, the guilty, like, that you're guilty. I don't think she's actually been sentenced yet, actually. But when they were reading off what she's guilty of and stuff, she ended up she started refusing to come out of her cell. Like, she was there the first time, and then the second and third time, she wouldn't come, and her parents also didn't come. And so she missed, like, some of the victims, like, testimonies, and the victims were really upset. They were really upset that they didn't get to see, like, justice be served to her.
Bro, she's a sociopath, though. So, like, those victims, I'm really sorry you guys had to go through that, and I'm really sorry that you felt like her being there would have helped you let them go.
Closure.
But she's a sociopath. So if she is crying, that is fake, planned, intentional crying. There is no emotion there. Yeah. None. Zero. You can't do this with emotion. There's nothing there.
What's insane is that when she was picked up for this, okay, and she was picked up multiple times, interrogated, when she was officially charged, and, like, all of that, she was completely stoic. At no point did she show any emotion when talking about any of this, getting charged, getting arrested, none of it.
Yeah, I know. It's
no
not
emotion.
Surprising at all. Not surprising at all.
And the only emotion she's shown since all of this was in the courtroom crying that one time, and they probably were crocodile tears.
Yep. I think...
Guaranteed.
I think 100% I feel comfortable saying that they were squeezed out. They were fake, because you can't do this with this amount of people. There were no accidents here. This was a very intentional, planned out murder one situation. Not just murder, but torture over and 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 over again. Sociopath, dude. There's no other option here.
You know, before she ever got found out or suspected for this, that trainees in the hospital were calling her the angel of death.
No.
And it was meant to be, like, tongue-in-cheek, but, like, she for real was the angel of death.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Oh my gosh. It's horrific. And I felt like the more interesting conversation here was to talk about, like, what could be behind it, because
I agree.
Because it's just so monstrous. Like, and it really scares me thinking about going in a hospital expecting these people to take care of you or your child or your literal newborn baby, and something like this happening.
Yeah.
Like, and I've heard many, actually, horror stories of, you know, doctors or nurses who did stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's really important to know your rights and know that you can call a patient advocate. Every hospital, I know, at least in America, has patient advocates. And I think you should have a family member there with you.
Yeah, I agree.
Try not to be alone in a hospital, like, especially if you can't be your own best advocate in that situation.
I agree.
So, I mean, I want to know what you guys think about the Lucy Letby case. If you have any other theories, what could be behind, like, her going down this path in life. I mean, the Munchausen by proxy actually makes sense after I looked into it. Like, the caretaker thing, the needing attention, the needing to be a victim. Also, I think there's some power exchange stuff there, you know, with that, like having the control.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to know what you guys think about it. Sorry if you wanted to hear the gory details, but I couldn't get into that.
No.
It's too much for me.
Yeah, it's not the right thing
it's
on
not
YouTube
what's important
when we're talking about. And the thing is too, like, what we sell in this channel is the conversation aspect, the real life conversation, talking through how this happened, how it could happen in society, some of those impacts and things like that. And that's where the gold's at.
Yeah, I just wish all of the parents of victims of this healing, peace and healing, and hopefully your families are healthy and you never have to experience anything like this ever again. And thank God she's in prison for probably the rest of her life.
Absolutely. So, all right.